Before Wolverine would become known for using his catchphrase, bub, and the noise his claws make when they show up to fight. Before Hugh Jackman would take on the iconic role first in 2000 and continue as Wolverine in 10 additional films, one of which is still in development. Before Wolverine would become blood brothers with Spider-Man after the two traveled through time, and become lifelong enemies with Sabretooth, Omega Red, Magneto, and Silver Samurai, just to name a few. Before Wolverine was a member of the Canadian secret government and joined the superhero team Alpha Flight. Due to Wolverine's ability to heal, it has actually slowed down the aging process to the point where this dude has been around a long time. He's well over 100 and has lived many a different life, fighting in many a war, including World War I, World War II. There he met Captain America. He also fought in Vietnam War, and it is believed that he was trained as a samurai out in Japan. It wasn't until 1974 that Wolverine made it into the pages of Marvel Comics, and initially he was a villain fighting against the Incredible Hulk. Marvel knew that they had a massive Canadian fan base, and they wanted to create a hero for their neighbors to the north, but early ideas had him being an evolved humanoid that was actually a Wolverine. Like an animal turned man, but still more animal than man. Now as a Canadian, I'm proud. I'd take Logan over Steve Rogers 8 days a week. Oh yeah, if you think Hugh Jackman is perfect for the role, well he's too tall to play Wolverine. Initially there were plans to have the late Bob Hoskins take on Wolverine's character, and well that would have been more fitting, because he's a short guy. Wolverine was born James Howlett in Cold Lake, Alberta, Canada sometime between 1882 and 1885, a couple of weeks before the 19th of July to be precise. He is the son of Elizabeth Howlett, who was the wife of a wealthy man, and his father was Thomas Logan, the groundskeeper. Yeah, this pregnancy, it was illegitimate. He grew up rich but was a sickly boy who suffered from severe allergies. He was also often beaten by his grandfather as a means to toughen him up, which certainly happened. The character of Wolverine was created by Marvel writer and editor Len Wein and Roy Thomas, with artists John Romita Sr. and Herb Tripe adding their depictions. Many other writers and artists contributed to his look and tale over time. Marvel realized in the early 70s that there was a huge market in Canada with fanboys buying their mags, so Marvel's editor-in-chief at the time, Roy Thomas, asked Len Wein to cook up a character that would be a true Canadian hero. Two options were given, the Badger or the Wolverine. I would have personally liked to see the Moose, but whatever. The backstory of Wolverine wasn't set in stone out the gate, and has continued to evolve backwards as the character moves forwards through time. Growing up, he had two childhood friends, an Irish gal named Rose, and unknown to him, his half-brother whose name was Doc. And this guy, well, he was a bit of a mess. Why? Well, him and Wolverine's biological father, Thomas Logan, that dude, he was a drunk. When Thomas was fired, he then hit the bottle hard and killed Wolverine's father in an attempt to kidnap Wolverine's mother, but the whole thing ended in a bloodbath when young Wolverine discovered his mutant powers for the first time, killing his biological father and scratching Dog's face with his bone claws. Then his mother, well, she just killed herself, because she was never really a happy woman, and was like, that's a lot to see. Was that confusing? I know, it's a pretty complicated story. From there, young Wolverine fled with his only companion Rose. The two moved to British Columbia, where they pretended to be cousins, and he adopted the name Logan to hide his true identity. At least he got something good out of his pops, you know what I mean? His mutant powers developed as he worked laborious jobs for extra cash. He was also a bartender. I'm sure there they made him the bouncer. Makes sense. Years passed and Logan was in love with Rose, but the two were cousins, so there wasn't much he could do about that. Then Dog showed up one day, jacked as all shit, and was looking for revenge. During their brawl, Logan killed Rose. It was then Logan decided that he wasn't fit to live amongst people, so he decided instead that he would live like an animal. This was around 1907. He found some peace living amongst a pack of wolves, but not much. An experiment by a madman known as Nathaniel Essex set a vicious polar bear loose in the Canadian wilderness, which attacked and ate his pack of wolves. So Wolverine, well, he fought and killed that bear. When the bear's body was discovered, a search was started for whoever or whatever managed to kill it. Logan was captured and experimented on. His healing powers, they were remarkable, and that madman Essex, well, he would tear Logan apart from the inside just to see how well he could really heal. Logan eventually escaped, and from there it was time for some travel. Along the way, he loved many a woman and fathered 7 children unknowingly. Sounds like that must be some kind of other superpower. Or maybe he just hated using protection. He traveled the world as a drifter for many years, initially to California, then as far out as Martipur, Japan, where he would sharpen his fighting skills as a samurai. He fought in both world wars, and when he crossed paths with Captain America, he was like, huh, that's pretty cool, but that guy's a little straight-laced. Then he served as a secret agent for the Canadian government, and it was them who laced his skeleton with adamantium. That shit you don't mess around with. Like, you can't even cut it in half or burn it or anything. It's pretty tough. And that was all part of the Weapon X program. They also attempted to control his mind through brainwashing, which only scrambled his memory further. I mean, it was already fucked up since his healing powers, they would remove all past traumas. Following another escape, he crossed paths with James McDonald Hudson and his wife Heather, who housed the animal and brought back his humanity. Somewhat. Hudson, a scientist himself, deemed Wolverine to become a hero like Fantastic Four and stitched for him his first suit. Yeah, that's the guy who came up with the name. The scientist was also inspired to form his own Canadian hero team, which he titled Alpha Flight, and made Wolverine his leader. Other founding members on the group included Groundhog, St. Elmo, Smart Alex, Snowbird Stitch, and Wild Child. There was another love in Wolverine's life, a native Indian woman from northern parts of Canada, and the two they fell in love. They even found some peace. Until Sabretooth showed up and raped her, and then killed her. And this was on Logan's birthday. I got a feeling Sabretooth and Dog are kind of the same person, wouldn't you agree? Like it happens with so many talented Canadians, America came a-calling, and Wolverine was recruited by the X-Men and Professor X. Now this all happened shortly after his first appearance in the Marvel comic books, where he took on the Hulk. When he first showed up, his original powers were just his agility and his healing ability, and those claws he has, well, they were simply just part of his costume. But they decided that seems a little silly. Someone could just take his gloves and do all that crazy stuff, so let's make them inside his body. And it's much better that way, wouldn't you agree? Wolverine was happy to leave Canada and the government supervision and found for himself a true home with the X-Men. His bad boy attitude won over few initially, but he quickly became one of Professor X's strongest and most loyal members. As for the rest of the story, well, you know the story because this is Before They're a Fiction.